Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Martha from Martha Is. Today's video is my late mid-month May wrap-up, which is obviously a very catchy title. I will admit that I have completely dropped off on filming videos in the last couple of weeks, so I went back to work, so I was unfurloughed, and I've also been doing pages for periods, so there's been quite a lot kind of going on and haven't really had much of a chance to film. If you are not aware, Pages for Periods is a fundraising challenge that I'm doing at the moment. I've filmed some videos about it already, so I will link those down below. But essentially, I am trying to read 100 pages per day for 26 days to raise money for Bloody Good Period. The challenge was running from the 1st of May to the 26th of May, so we're nearly at the end. Because when I started this, when I had this bright idea, I was on furlough and had not a lot else to do, and so it was absolutely fine. I could read, I had lots of time, and I completely underestimated what it would be like to go back to work and how kind of tiring and sort of brain foggy it can be. And so I've basically been working a full day, feeling absolutely knackered, climbing into bed at like 11 and then reading 100 pages. So it's not a great idea. So I will say I am kind of looking forward to it finishing, but it has been amazing. It's been incredible how much people have supported it. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so grateful for the people who have been doing the challenge with me and fundraising with me. We've raised nearly over £2,000, which is just so. If you're watching this and you've contributed in any way, thank you very much. Thank you so much. But let's crack on, because I've been doing Pages for Periods. I have read a lot of books this month, which is obviously very exciting, but it does mean when trying to plan out this video, I was kind of looking at how many books can I cram into one of these videos without it just being the most boring, ridiculous video ever. So I may have got the balance wrong. We will soon find out. So let's get cracking, shall we? So let's start with a really brilliant one. This is The Bride Test by Helen Hoang. So I think it was back in, I want to say February, maybe March, not sure. When I read The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hoang, which was her first book and the first in this series. And oh my god, I bloody loved it. I gave it like 5 stars. It is so hot and steamy and just, so brilliant. And so I bought the second one almost immediately, but then in classic fashion, put it on the shelf and didn't read it immediately. So part of Pages for Periods, I offered people the opportunity, that makes it sound really arrogant, being like, oh, you've got this great opportunity. I asked people if they would be kind enough to sponsor my next read, so they could make a donation and they could pick what I would read next. And so my friend from Instagram, Ellie, very kindly picked this one off the shelf, and I realised how I got off very lightly because I could have been given something horrendous to read, but she chose this for me to read and it was delightful. I had some concerns, I'll be honest, because so this is the second in the series, but it's you don't have to have read the previous series. So the main two characters in The Kiss Quotient barely feature, like they sort of pop in a couple of times here. So this kind of focuses on a secondary character who only popped up like once in the first book. So it's not like a kind of linear sequel. But the character in the main character, Kai, he is autistic, and he and I'm explaining this terribly. In the first book, Stella was autistic, and in the first book she had hired Michael, who was an escort, because she wanted to teach him how to be good at sex, right? So then that is why it gave rise to a very steamy sexual book. This one, Kai is autistic, and he has no interest in a relationship at all. No interest in relationship or sex or anything. But his mum wants him to find someone. So his mum brings over Esme from Vietnam, I think it's Vietnam, it's sort of like an arranged marriage, really. She doesn't force them to get married. She says, come over, get to know each other for a month. I booked you a wedding date, and hopefully it will go from there. But because of that, I went into this expecting that this wasn't going to be the same kind of sexual, hot romance, just because it was made very clear from the start that Kai wasn't really interested in a relationship, and that it was partly around his autism and how he understands and processes emotions. And so I felt like either he's going to not... Sorry, I had something in my mouth. That was lovely. He's either going to not be interested at all, in which case it's not going to be a very steamy novel now, is it? Or he's going to suddenly get into it, in which case that feels quite disingenuous and not really respectful to autism and you know, having different ways of processing things if he suddenly gets over it, if that makes sense. So because of that, I didn't have as high hopes for this novel. However, I was totally wrong, and I am delighted to admit I was totally wrong. And I think, and I don't want to spoil anything, but I think because Helen Hoang herself says she has autism spectrum disorder, so this is an own voices novel, really. And because of that, it was dealt with really well. It still has lots of sex in it, guys. And didn't feel disingenuous to me, recognising obviously I don't have autism, so I can't say, but it didn't feel disingenuous. I felt like it was it made sense. And yeah, it's brilliant. Just read it. Bloody loved it. So good. So romantic and steamy and hot, and just you can just whiz through it in a day. Loved it. Yeah. This is book 1, and we're already on 6 minutes. I'm not going to get through this file. Let's just know that right now. Okay, so next 2 I wanted to talk about together because they're very much related. So this one is Feminism Interrupted by Lola Olufemi, and this is part of a series of 4 books, 4 non-fiction books, published by Pluto Press, and it's called the Outspoken by Pluto Press series, and it's books that dissent. So yeah, it's one of 4 series. I of course bought all 4 of them, but I will talk about that in a book haul video coming up shortly, I'm sure. But I picked this one up straight away and read it, and I thought it was very, very good. So it is short, but there's still a lot in there. It still really packs a punch, and it's really talking about kind of radical feminism, and it's a polemic against white feminism, liberal feminism, the kind of feminism that really focuses on a narrow set of women and leaves out the women that society generally leaves out. And so therefore, how is that really feminism? That is not equality. So we're talking about, for example, trans women, and so she was talking a lot about TERF, so trans exclusionary radical feminists, so the women who say they are feminists but they roundly reject trans women. Sex workers, Muslim women. So Muslim women is a great example because there's kind of racial undertones and Islamophobic undertones that mean that a lot of women, and I've certainly been guilty of this in the past, a lot of women assume, for example, that the hijab or any headscarves or the burqa is a tool of oppression, and that Islam is an oppressive religion, and therefore any women who wear it are oppressed women, and we white women from the West must save them. And actually no one in that conversation is listening to the Muslim women themselves. So yes, absolutely, it can be used as a tool of oppression, I understand, because if a woman is being told she has to wear it and she doesn't want to wear it, yes, that is oppression. But there are also many, many, many Muslim women who do want to wear it because it is part of their religion and that is important to them. So it's all about, actually, in those conversations, almost always, the Muslim women themselves are silenced and not listened to. So that's just a couple of examples, but it explained, and the sex workers as well, it explained concepts like the Nordic model, which you might have heard of before, and the difference between legalisation and decriminalisation, which was really helpful for me because I'd heard those kind of concepts around but not really understood them. So yeah, highly, highly recommend this one. And then I read this one, Feminism for the 99%, which is kind of along a similar theme. So this one is written more as a manifesto, so these are the things that we would change, but it is along the same lines. It's all about radical feminism, about against kind of liberal mainstream feminism and saying all the things that need to change. So I think there was a lot of crossover in sex work and things like that. I will admit I can't review this one as fully because I read this one as part of my Bank Pages for Periods readathon, where I read 26 books in 3 days, and so a lot of them are kind of merging into one in my head. So, but I do remember thinking, this is very interesting and very kind of, and a lot of similar content to this. I like it. I will probably need to reread it. Next one. This was another one in my 26 books in 3 days. So again, I've almost certainly probably need to reread it. Tiny Moons, A Year of Eating in Shanghai. So this one I bought from Back to Books because of her Brum Reading Challenge. And the prompt is from a Birmingham indie press, and the Emma Press is from Birmingham. This is described as a collection of essays, but I really felt it was kind of a memoir, as in it flowed together more as a kind of short memoir than a collection of essays. But this is all about Nina Mingya Powles, who is from New Zealand, and she is biracial, so she is also of Malaysian Chinese descent, and she spends a year in Shanghai, and this is all about kind of the food that she ate and the food that she cooked and how that connected her to her Malaysian Chinese roots. And it was just, I've never read a food memoir before. Actually, think about it, maybe I think I might have done actually one. This might be the second one I've read. But it was so interesting in the language. It was very evocative and lush, and just and she really did convey the smells and the tastes and exactly what you would want if you're going to spend a whole book talking about food. But of course it is so much more than food. It's about family and history and belonging and heritage. And there was also a really interesting part in it where I don't know if I can find it. I think I've literally quoted it on Twitter and Instagram and basically anywhere I can find it. Yeah. It is tiring to be a woman who loves to eat in a society where hunger is something not to be satisfied but controlled, where a long history of female hunger is associated with shame and madness. The body must be punished for every misstep, for every indulgence. The balance of control must be restored. To enjoy food as a young woman, to opt out every day from the guilt expected of me, is a radical act of love. That really stayed with me. I appreciate I did have to find it to read it to you. Yes, it didn't stay in my memory word for word, but I remember that. And so yeah, it is about so much more than food. So she kind of separates it into seasons and says the fruits that are associated with the seasons, and talks about the Chinese kind of written characters and how the characters for certain foods, and she breaks them down and what they mean. And this is really good, guys. This isn't something that you see every day. Pick this one up. The next one is The Women of Brewster Place by Gloria Naylor. So this is our May book for Do the Work Book Club. I will link that down below, but essentially I co-host a book club on Instagram where we are focusing on reading BAME, BIPOC, whatever you want to say, women, basically women who aren't white. Actually, no, sorry, not just women, people of all genders who aren't white, and engaging with them engaging with the books from the perspective of trying to engage with anti-racism. That's what Do the Work Book Club is about. So this is our May book, and this is about a kind of a, what am I trying to say? It's like an estate. It's the American version of an estate. Where buildings, a couple of buildings with lots of apartments, where called Brewster Place, where you have these African American women, and it's basically told in kind of vignette styles, so the stories of each of these women and their kind of backgrounds and how they came to be at Brewster Place. And it's very good, very readable and very moving, and it highlights how it really brings Brewster Place is almost like its own character, and so that kind of sense of a place and how it is a home for the women was really interesting. And it highlights how in the creation of Brewster Place is a great example of kind of sort of gentrification, or well, no, not really. Yeah, so like a wall is erected because Brewster Place is almost becoming too of a vibrant link to the town, so they erect a wall that blocks off the link to the town, and so then as a result it starts to become more kind of dilapidated, and you really see how the people who live in these kinds of areas just don't have a voice to be able to influence those kinds of decisions, whether, you know, in politics or, you know, anything like that. But this is about, I'm rambling in a really inarticulate way. This is about the women who live there, and yeah, and their own individual stories about, you know, motherhood and or not motherhood, or their experiences of race and their experience. You know, there's LGBTQ characters in here as well, and their experiences of that and homophobia within the African American community. And yeah, it is very affecting. It's quite actually a quick read, a surprisingly quick read, but very affecting. And what I would say as well is that this needs a trigger warning for quite a graphic sexual violence scene. So I didn't know that was in there, and it did take me a bit by surprise. But I suppose a chapter or two before I started to see it coming. So because of that, I personally I managed it okay. But if I'd been in a worse headspace, or if I hadn't seen it coming, I probably would have found that very difficult. It's very graphic. So if you struggle with that kind of thing, you know, you might not want to read this, or you might want to make sure you're reading it when you're in a particularly good place. And if you want me to give you like more details about it, then please do just message me, and I'm happy to do that. But overall, yeah, very, very good. So this video is probably already too long. We'll keep going. Hopefully you're still with me. Stay with me, guys. So let's do a quick 6 books in one. So when you're doing a reading challenge, particularly if you're trying to read 26 books in 3 days, like only a lunatic would, short children's books, very helpful. So over this month and a little bit of last month, I've read almost the entire children's works of Roald Dahl, almost, probably, I don't know. So I have 6 here that I have read in the month of May. So we've got The Giraffe, the Pelly and Me, SEO Trot, George's Marvellous Medicine, The Magic Finger, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Charlie and the Glass Elevator. I actually read Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in April. Now, I would say The Giraffe, the Pelly and Me and The Magic Finger are 2 of the more kind of balmy, I'm not actually really sure what just happened, but fun. I think maybe they're even slightly younger children, not sure, they're the shorter ones, but, you know, fine. Yeah. SEO Trot, fine. Very odd. I would say it's kind of a, you know, a romance where an old man tricks an old woman into marrying him by stealing her tortoise, as you do. That's literally that. George's Marvellous Medicine, again, just totally balmy. Just honestly, I don't even, it's so weird. Totally insane. And then Charlie and the Glass Elevator, I was actually quite disappointed by this one. I think I gave it 2 stars, because you think of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as so imaginative and so much about sweets and chocolate, which I absolutely love. And then they're in the glass elevator and they end up in space, and then other stuff happens, and it didn't really flow as a story. It felt a little bit like the space part was kind of a physics lesson, and then like the second half of it, there was a lot of maths, to the point where the Oompa Loompas turned up actually with a blackboard with maths on it. So it actually felt like this was kind of a children's math/physics lesson with a story retrofitted into it, and very little about chocolate or sweets, which was highly disappointing to me. So I did not like that at all. I think my favourite was Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think I have read that before, and I think I did like it at the time, but that, yeah, I did. This is a good one. Yeah. You know what, guys? I'm going to stop. I'm not going to put you through anymore, because we're nearly at 20 minutes. So there'll be some more videos at some point. Let me know what you've been reading in the month of May so far. If you've been participating in Pages for Periods, please do tell me. I'd love to hear how you're getting on with it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. And I will see you again soon for another video. Bye!